the recording. So official. And I'll start the webinar and I'll give the intro and then we'll go from there. Hi, everyone. My name is Nadia Mozaffar, and I am a senior attorney at Juvenile Law Center, and with my colleague, which I'll let you introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Monica Desser. I'm a current Zubrow Fellow.
Great. We're really happy to be doing this webinar in order to share a little bit about our Zubrow Fellowship and a little bit about Juvenile Law Center and how to apply for the Zubrow Fellowship. And there'll be plenty of time to ask questions, but also if throughout the presentation you want to pop a question into the chat, please feel free to do that, and we're happy to answer any. And otherwise, I know that people will also be watching this as a recording, so if there's questions afterwards, feel free to email us at zubrow@jlc.org. But otherwise, we're really happy to be here. We're really excited to talk about this fellowship. So overall, just some basics about Juvenile Law Center. We're a nonprofit organization, legal organization, primarily in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, although we work all around the country. And we really focus on protecting the rights of young people in the juvenile system, the adult criminal justice system, and the child welfare system. And one thing that's really key to Juvenile Law Center is, unlike a public defender's office or a legal aid organization, we do very, very limited direct representation. So most of the work that we do is on policy changes. We write a lot of amicus briefs where we support the work of other attorneys. We also will sometimes, when we do litigation, we'll do class actions or other broad lawsuits. And our goal is always to really change policies and change the system. So it's very rare that we take like one case at a time, and a lot of the work of not only the Zubrow Fellows, but also of the attorneys in general at Juvenile Law Center is that we work really on a lot of research, a lot of writing, a lot of policy writing, and thinking about how we can make broad systemic changes to the system. So so that's just like an important distinction to understand about the work at Juvenile Law Center. And so again, if there's any questions about the work or the fellowship, please feel free to put them in the chat. But otherwise, the Zubrow Fellowship specifically is a 2-year fellowship. It's really ideally for new attorneys that are coming into this space. We have some specifics about who can apply, and generally you can only be out of law school for about a couple years before you apply for the Zubrow Fellowships. The specific dates for this year on the website. And our goal is to really reach people early in their career and have this fellowship be a way to launch your career into in this work in public interest law, in working in this field of the legal system as it impacts young people, whether it's the criminal system, the juvenile justice system, or the child welfare system. And unlike things like the Skadden Fellowship or Equal Justice Works, this is not a project-based fellowship, so you don't have to think of a specific project or anything. The Zubrow Fellow works on kind of a variety of things in the office, and what subject area you work on or what department you'll work in will kind of be determined after you join based on your interests and the needs of the office at the time. So generally, the Zubrow Fellow, along with really the other attorneys in the office, will be assigned to a team or a department, and it'll be one of the dealing with one of the issue areas that Juvenile Law Center works on. It could be economic justice, it could be conditions, it could be working on child welfare pieces. And so whatever is kind of the need at the time, the Zubrow Fellow would work on that team and get assignments from them and get feedback from them, but it's not something that needs to be decided on ahead of time. So, and overall, I think our fellows are just extremely instrumental to our work. They work on, you know, the research, writing memos, policy reports, like all working really in teams with the other attorneys and other staff in order to really help build up cases and help build up policy changes. And so we really find the work to be really integral. And so I just want to share a couple of things that would be of interest. I'm actually just going to share my screen really quickly. And so I would really encourage everyone to check out the Juvenile Law Center website. So up at top, youth justice, children in prison, foster care, youth advocacy, and this issues tab really goes into a lot of the issues that we work on. And so when you're placed on a team, these are what the teams essentially will cover. And if you've looked at the application already, you'll see that you know, there's some questions on there about what you want to work on at Juvenile Law Center. So really reviewing these will be helpful to that. And then otherwise, specifics about the Zubrow Fellowship is available on our website as well. There's information about how to apply, which we'll talk about a little bit, news, fellows and alumni that have done this. So I would really encourage everyone to check that out as you're working on your application, or if you have other questions that we don't answer today, some of that might be up there. And now I will pass it along to Monica to share a little bit about her experience as a Zubrow Fellow thus far.
Yeah, so hi everyone. So far I've been working primarily in the youth in the adult system team. So that team works on transfer to adult court and our juvenile life without parole cases. I was really interested coming in working on legal research and writing and sort of trying my hand at some of the litigation. And I've had a fair amount of opportunities to do that already, and I started in September. So I've had the chance to work on 3 different amicus briefs already. So for example, the last brief that I worked on, we were arguing about racial disproportionality in who receives the harshest sentences. And we were arguing that that counsels for heightened protection and heightened review. And I think one of the things that I really like about the Juvenile Law Center is that you often get a chance to add a new perspective or make a new argument. And I think that's really exciting. Another big thing that I've been working on is litigation that we have going in Florida. So in Florida, we have been challenging the parole system and arguing that people who were convicted when they were young haven't really had a meaningful opportunity at release, that they're not really considering their maturity and rehabilitation. So what I really like about that is I've gotten a chance to see how complex litigation works. So I've worked on each part of that case since I've been here. I had a chance to work on discovery and document review, and then all the way through sort of preparing for depositions, and I'll be able to sort of continue to work on that. So I think, that's been really interesting for me to get a sense of what it looks like to really work on a piece of complex litigation. So I think that's sort of a summary of some of the things that I've been able to do already in my short time here.
Great, thank you so much. And so hopefully this really highlights to you the variety of types of cases and other work that our Zubrow Fellows get to work on. And I think it really provides for a good foundation in learning about the issues, and then learning about like substantively how to do things, how to do legal advocacy in this space. And so I also just wanted to spend a few moments sharing the application with you. So the application is available on Juvenile Law Center's website, and I will pull it up and share that once I find it. So it is a PDF that can be that's available through the Juvenile Law Center website. So let me just show you where it is. So on the Zubrow Fellowship website, there's a tab that says how to apply. And once you go there, you can click to download the application, and it's a PDF application that requires you to submit the application as well as several documents, essays, resume, law school transcript, and letters of recommendation and writing sample. And it's really, it's the easiest for us if all of it is done, put into one PDF and then emailed. And the deadline is January 14th. It goes to zubrow@jlc.org. And this is also the email you can use if you have additional questions after this webinar. And so the overall format of the application is like a pretty standard, background, and then there's 2 essays. And this is where I was explaining earlier that the first essay really asks you to review and reflect on the work that Juvenile Law Center is doing, and then explaining how that interests you. And then the second essay talks about your personal contributions and background and experiences and how that can contribute to the work of Juvenile Law Center. And, we really like hearing about how people's personal experiences have made them interested in this work, and whether it's, your background, and the various pieces, and especially for people who have experience either directly or through their families in the systems that we're working in. If there's any lessons you've learned from that you're comfortable or willing to share, those are of course welcome at your discretion. So those are the essays. And then we also ask for recommendation letters and writing sample. And so once the application is submitted, our process generally is that there is an interview panel of Juvenile Law Center staff that is the first round of interviews. And then there is a panel interview that happens where we invite community members and professionals, advocates who don't work at Juvenile Law Center, but who work in this field to do the final interview of the 3 finalists. And then that panel is the one that picks the Zubrow Fellow. So as you all know, everything is very up in the air in terms of COVID, unfortunately, still. And so we are still making final decisions about whether the the second interview, which is generally in person, is once again going to be virtual this year. But if any travel is required, that is something that we would provide ample notice of, and assess the situation of COVID, of course, and make sure that we're making decisions that keeps everyone safe. Otherwise, again, it is very hard to tell what is going to happen in fall of 2022, which is when this fellowship would start. We are hoping that that we will be in the office then, but we don't know. But I think overall the fellowship is not a remote fellowship, but our offices are closed and we are remote at this moment. And so we will just have to keep everyone updated on what is happening with our office opening. And unfortunately, there's just not a lot of specifics we can outline on that. So all that to say, well, please keep asking us questions. We will keep you updated with the most up-to-date information that we have at the time, both on the interview and then the actual fellowship. And so we will turn it over to questions. But before we do that, I just wanted to give Monica an opportunity to share any tips or things that she had learned from going through the interview process.
Sure. Yeah, I think just sort of as Nadia was saying earlier, I know, some other fellowships that you're applying to are project-based. So a lot of the application process and the interview process is about explaining the law and talking about your project. And, since this is different, I think it's a lot more about sort of your background and why you would be a good fit. And so sort of don't be afraid to highlight those things in your application. And I think to that end, this advice that I got before applying, and I think it was useful. It might be helpful to think through some of the bigger picture questions, like, what do you think are the most pressing issues that are facing the field? Where do you see yourself in 10 years? Where do you see the field in 10 years? Those kind of things helped me to sort of frame my application and my answers to some of the interview questions.
Great. Thanks, Monica. At this time, if there's any questions, you can put them in the chat. Otherwise, I will put my email address at the bottom in the chat as well. And feel free to reach out with any questions, or you can also email the Zubrow email address as well. And we're always happy to chat, but we think this is a really great fellowship, and we encourage everyone to apply and think it would be a really great opportunity. Are there any questions? All right. I think we will close out here, but as always, please feel free to reach out, and thanks for participating.